Welcome to the Daily Bee Show, episode 107, with the awesome Genine Howard. She has been all over the Sunshine Coast and in my world and in my face for the last little bit since I moved up here, with all the people that I've been connecting with. Basically everyone that I've connected with knows of Genine Howard and the amazing work that she's been doing. She runs the Profile magazine and Iconic Empires. She's helping women and men from all over the place grow their own empires in business, but also with their own lifestyle, and it all starts within the mind. So I'm so glad to have Genine with us today and to share some of her wisdom and knowledge with you guys. But Genine, thank you for joining us.
Awesome to be here, Matt. And I love how synchronicities happen. You know, you come to my event where it's a room full of women and I'm like, there's something about you. And then we're here connecting. So we'll talk more about that as we go. But I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. It is so many synchronicities just keep on popping up, and it's almost to the point where you're just looking out for them like you expect them. Coincidences are almost a thing of the past. It's just an illusion that's actually a conspiracy, almost coincidences, and it's actually just the way life works. And I'm looking forward to getting deep with you about that as well, because you really have blown the minds of a lot of the women that have met you, that have come into my life recently. And also with me, like being at your event last month, was it last month or the month before, just recently? It just is reaffirming a lot of the spiritual practices and business and tangible practices that I've learned along the way. But just having someone like yourself and Linda that you work with so closely to be able to just bridge that gap for people, I think is wonderful. And that's something that I've been looking for myself to understand, because it can be very sort of woo-woo on one side and then very analytical and tangible on the other. But there's that middle ground that really does have a space to combine them both, which is the people that are doing that I see are having the greatest impact for themselves and the people around. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into a bit of that. But before we do, for those that haven't met you, which if you haven't, definitely get in contact and connect with Genine as soon as possible, because she's amazing. But can you share a little bit about what you're doing now, and just the things that you're passionate about and that you're delivering into the world right now?
Yeah, awesome. You know, synchronicities are an interesting thing because to give you a little bit of the backstory, which leads into where I am at the moment, I moved to the Sunshine Coast in 2007, and I really saw a gap in the market for an amazing magazine. So my background is magazines. Prior to that is in tourism as a tour guide, but that may be a story for another day. So I saw a gap and I went for it. Like I literally just decided one day, bang, I am doing this. And 3 months later, I had the magazine out there on the streets.
Wow.
So I really take a stand for the inspired action and live and breathe it. So I had a magazine here called Profile Magazine for many, many years. But for me, I got to a point that it just wasn't fulfilling me anymore. You know, like it seems very successful on the outside, but just something was missing internally. And it was the catalyst of having my first baby that made me actually tune into that there was something more for me out there. No idea what it was.
Yeah. And
I actually sold the magazine. And at the same time, I said to my husband, well, like, I want to change my life. What about you? What do you want to do? and he knows just to go for the ride, just go with the flow and see what happens. And so he actually said, I really want to pursue acting full time. And he had he's really had a background in, as a trained opera singer, theatre actor and so forth, but had never really given it a full-time go.
Yeah.
So we decided to do that. And what that meant was really changing everything about how we did business and how we did life and how we earned money.
Yeah.
And we just jumped and trusted that we would work it out. And so we did. And I think that was about 6 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And so 6 years of us both literally living our dream and our passion, following our passions.
Yeah.
And so now I've created a company called Iconic Empires, which is my coaching company, which myself and my team of coaches, we really teach people how to find what their passion is, to monetize it, and literally build their own version of their empire around that. Very much in a case of, what feels amazing for them and living their life first and having family first, and then the business actually supports them to do that. And what we find is that by doing that, people live really connected, awesome, fun, adventurous, impactful, influential lives and impact many other people.
That's great to listen to and hear, and it is inspiring as well and motivating. But that takes a lot of courage, and that to get to that space as well. Like, there's not many people that are just naturally willing to step out like that and put themselves out there, and even just to start a magazine and just get it going, let alone then to completely have that 180 shift, like you and your partner did. Like, that takes some big balls to do that stuff just naturally. And is that something that came along just sort of innately with you, like you've always sort of had that, or is that something that you did have guidance and your own coach and sort of accountability partners or something along the way as well? Or yeah,
well, both. So for me, innately, I must have just somewhere along the line, whether it's from my parents or somewhere, I have always had this capacity to just jump and work it out later. So to give you an example of that, I lived in Melbourne, grew up in Melbourne, and good old suburban lifestyle. Did the traditional thing, went to school, went to university. And after university, in that first year out, I just applied for over 100 jobs in a year. Mm-hmm. And I just felt like there's something just amiss here. Like, I'm applying for so many jobs and not even getting
jobs, like in general, or were they?
So my degree was a Bachelor of Science. Okay. So for me, I wanted to be a park ranger.
Hence the white.
Yeah, I've worn khaki most of my career prior to magazines. Yeah. So anything that was in, tourism or, in wildlife management, that kind of thing. So that was kind of my forte. Mm-hmm. But something was amiss. So I gave myself a deadline and I said, if by the end of the year you don't get a job in what you want to do, you're moving, and you're moving to Queensland.
Cool.
Had I been to Queensland? No. Did I know where I was going? No. But it was just that setting that goal that then set a chain reaction of events off. So I committed to my word, and by the end of the year, I didn't have that job. So I went, well, clearly I'm going.
Yeah.
And so I just set the date in about 3 weeks' time that I was going to get in my car and drive to Port Douglas.
It's a great drive too.
It's an amazing drive. And I was 23 and I was so young and naive, and, doing that trip by myself seemed a very, very big adventure.
Yeah.
And, things tripped me up along the way. The week just before I was meant to go, the clutch went in my car. Oh. And it was going to cost me $300 to go and get it fixed. And I'd actually saved $300 to get me up the coast.
Yeah.
Back in those days. It's a while ago. It was only going to cost me $300 to do petrol, stay at a couple of motels, dodgy motels, and get up there. Anyway, but I made it work. I went and got a loan off my stepdad and just made it work. Yeah. And I remember I arrived in Port Douglas in the middle of January, stinking hot. I had no idea. I had no home, no job, no nothing, right? And I went into a tourist information centre and just went, hi, I'm here. And she's like, yeah. And who are you? And I was like, oh, my God, I'm on this adventure and, where shall I stay? And anyway, long story, but, I had to challenge myself and go and stay in a backpackers, and I had like about $5 left, and, people bought me a beer and a sausage for dinner. It was just crazy stuff. And I've literally since then trusted myself that when I have that inspired, inspiration to just jump, I follow it. I've always followed it. Mm-hmm. But I guess to quantify, when I was at Profile Magazine, I did actually start getting coached. And I remember this particular woman said to me, hey, have you ever thought about having a business coach? And I'm like, oh, business coach, what's this thing? That sounds great. Maybe I can make more money. So I signed up with her, and it wasn't business coaching.
No.
She always speaks about it. That's the hook.
Yeah.
That's the hook, people. Tell them you're a business coach. No, I'm joking. Not joking. And so
Don't give away all
I'm
the
a
secrets.
business coach, yeah. And it was full-blown life coaching, and it was beyond what I'd ever experienced in my life before. And it was such a massive uncovering of who I was. And it was for the first time ever realizing how many onion layers of beliefs that we have. And through coaching with her, I started to peel those layers off. And it's through peeling those layers off that I got to the point that I was like, what I'm doing right now does not light me up anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, two things: an innate sense of, almost fearlessness, and then definitely having support there.
With looking back, like, it's always easy to join the dots looking back compared to looking forwards. But that year that you spent, okay, if I don't have a job by the end of the year, then I'm moving. Was that you maybe not completely trusting that feeling and needing more of a quantifiable evidence and a few more synchronicities to happen before you followed that? Like, looking back, did you know really at the start of that year you're going on that adventure? Like, that's happening?
I'm going to say no, because I was very naive, and I was very sheltered. Like, I'd hardly traveled or anything, or had many sort of experiences outside my normal realm.
Yeah.
So no, it was really that I needed to go through the process of that over 12 months. And, even when I did leave, I was still, a baby. I was still, clutching to what life was meant to be.
Yeah.
And so me moving away seemed really strange. Like, it seemed strange to everyone. For example, I had a long-term boyfriend at the time, and the poor guy, I just went, I'm leaving. He's like, but what about me? I'm like,
laters.
Oh, well. And I literally left him on the side of the road in a crying mess as I drove away. It was very dramatic.
That sounds dramatic. And credit to you, not necessarily just for that, but all those little things along the way, they're all, like, looking back, they were part of the journey. But those are the things, like staying at a backpackers for $5, like, what the hell am I going to do? Those are the things that people pack up as like, all right, this journey is clearly over. I gave it a crack, but it's run its course. But until you really tap into those synchronicities of life and realize that you're actually okay and there's nothing you can't handle, then you do pull back. Like, psychologically, naturally, we're lazy and we don't want to face that, and there's so many reasons why not to continue on. But that's why I love having people like yourself on the show that can just be or reaffirm that journey of sticking with your gut and your heart and following that calling. So, I mean, can you reiterate that, or even give us another few examples of how that's really helped you along the way, and maybe even what you do with your clients as well to help them really believe in themselves on that path?
Yeah, totally. For me then, even like back in those early days, not even in this period, I literally always followed my gut, just innately knowing that I was always going to be looked after. And
where'd you get that from?
It was somehow I've been able to be very intuitive and very instinctual for a very long time. And it's like trusting that inner voice, that first voice that says, yeah, go, just do it. And then leaping.
Yeah.
And I must have been, I'll give my parents credit, because it must have been, actually what comes up for me, I'm pretty sure it's my mum. Even though mum did like all the traditional things, like, she often worked 3 jobs part-time to look after us girls because she was a single mum.
Yeah, wow.
She just bloody got on with it and did it.
Yeah, cool.
Right. I feel like there's this piece of bravery from her that she just had to go and do it, that has been instilled in me, which plays out in me, thinking about it and just going and doing it. So to give you another example, I remember I was working in Port Douglas in tourism and, having an incredible time. I was sales and marketing manager for an amazing wildlife sanctuary up there. in my zone. I'm a tour guide by trade, but I was doing all of the PR for the wildlife sanctuary as well. So any of the TV shows like Getaway, Great Outdoors, and all of that, they come on, and I would be the host, like interview with them.
Oh, cool.
Love a bit of TV.
Get off you later on.
And so I met a boy. And boys. I was only going out with him, bloody boys, and I was only going out with him for a little while. And he says to me, "Oh my God, I'm moving to Heron Island, like a long way away."
Okay.
And I said, "Great, can I come?" He goes, "Well, if you can get a job on the island, sure." Guess what I went and did?
Got a job on the island.
It was, I'm not joking, like about 2 weeks later, I ended up being the guest relations and activities supervisor. Bang.
Boom.
And here I'm living on Heron Island. That's and awesome. I was on Heron Island for 12 amazing, life-changing months of every day taking semi-submersible tours with manta rays and tiger sharks and turtles, reef walks, and just, having an incredible experience. So I wouldn't have had that amazing experience if I hadn't have just jumped.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just gone with it.
Absolutely.
And the next question you asked me was, what are some of the tools that I show my clients how to learn how to do the same?
Yeah.
And really it comes back to, we were talking about the two things when you started the conversation. It's like there's the business and the strategy and the logical and all of that kind of side of things, which is what I would term the masculine. So we all have a masculine side of us.
Mm-hmm.
But we often operate from here and it's too logical.
Yeah.
Right. So if we're like in control and logical and down the line and this is what it's meant to be, we don't allow room for the other side of things, which is the synchronicity and the miracles and the infinite possibilities, which I call the feminine.
Yeah.
So as you would have known from that Fempire event that you went to, I really teach my clients how to have a balance of the masculine and the feminine.
Absolutely.
Which has nothing to do with male, female. It's that masculinity of like the business strategy, knowing what you're doing, numbers, knowing where you're going. But then this side of things, I believe, is not being taught enough. And that's when we can really tune into like that inner voice, that highest desire that we have. When you get that feeling like, oh, wow, that could be exciting, and then just going with it.
Yes.
Whereas too often we have that and the logic takes over.
Uh-huh.
Oh, how am I going to do that? How can I afford it? All of that side of things.
That won't happen. Surely not. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's this side of things which is also stands for trust and surrender and flow.
Yeah.
This is where the magic really happens on this side.
Okay.
Which is actually the opposite of what this is the feminine side left, by the way. We've got a left brain, which is the logical, right brain's creative, but the left side of our body is actually the feminine and the right side is the masculine. Usually we write with our right-hand side, etc.
Yeah, okay.
And just to signify that, I showed you before, I've got a tattoo. It doesn't mean anything to anyone else. But this tattoo I got in Bali on a client retreat, and we would just say before the interview, all the clients got a tattoo on the retreat. I will quickly say, no, it's not the same tattoo. Just too weird. Too weird.
Soul sisters forever. No, but that is amazing as well, and I think that's testament again for those that maybe haven't met yourself, or even like you were back in the day, like, a business coach, what's that all about? This new concept is that this work is profound. You can't measure the impact really that is being had on people's lives. Like you can double your revenue, you can times 300 your revenue, but as far as your lifestyle and your mindset, your capacity for happiness and joy and bliss and all these things that really create a solid foundation for a beautiful life, that's 1,000 times, 10,000 times what we once were when it was anxious and depressing and fearful and fretful or uncertain, all these places. So to have someone like yourself that's able to take a group of women, I assume there was no men at this one, was there?
No, this was a women, yeah.
So take a group of women or a group of individuals, take them over for, it was a week? Is that right?
Yeah, we had 8 days.
8 days, and really help them transform on such a level. Like I mean, I've got one tattoo, but I take that as a symbol of something that's like life changing,
Yeah.
obviously. And so to have that sort of an impact, and I was spoken to a couple of the women that were there, and it's mind blowing. Like I love seeing that, and that inspires me to want to continue connecting with people like yourself and like them, and just absorbing like a sponge the impact and the wisdom that you guys have, so I can then go and do that and share that with others. Hence the
Yeah.
Daily B show as well, and it's it's
Totally. Totally. You know, number one, why don't we get a matching tattoo? That would be super cool.
done.
It's super weird. But number two, like this is the work, right? So, you know, I've signed up for every business coach in the world and done the online programs and all of that. Like, awesome, great. You got to do it. However, it's not till I really, really learned how to do the feminine side of things, which is everything from heart space, trusting, surrendering, faith, all of that side of things, which can be labeled honestly spiritual. Right? I've just always made my life awesome because I am the person who creates that. And for anyone whose life is not as awesome as what you want it to be, you're the only person who can change that. And by really tuning into like the masculine and the feminine, that's where you find you have such power to create your own life and then to help others create the same. So it's this ripple effect that I'm really about, because I believe that by me going first, by me, being vulnerable first, by me traveling and experiencing life, by me creating a life where my husband doesn't have to work like a normal job and is an actor, full time, does cool creative stuff. He's playing Stacey Jacks in Rock of Ages coming up at the J in Noosa, the Event Centre in Caloundra, and then they're touring out to Rocky. Like, super awesome.
Do you want to finish, actually? Because we did go on a tangent halfway through you sharing that story as well. So, yeah, once there, let's go back to that just to finish the second half of that, because that is epic.
So, anyway, so he's doing that. But, it's like for us, we've really created a life by conscious choice. And I guess the topic of today we were talking about is that, do less to be more is really at the core of that, because I find that, often when women come to me for coaching or men come to me for coaching, they're busy being busy, right? They don't know who they are because there's so many things that they're focusing on and trying to succeed to be. Whereas when you actually strip away most of that, you really then tune into who you actually really are, what your authentic mission is in the world, and start to really uncover what that is for you and how to speak that out to the world. And, I think that's what's the really powerful thing about doing less. And we can talk a little bit more about, like, literally what does that mean? Because people go, really? Do less?
Yeah, I love it as well. And it doesn't necessarily mean sit around on the couch and eat Doritos, but let's jump into that. Like, because that is the first question. Like, what do you mean do less?
Yeah. Sitting around a couch eating Doritos is usually you still being busy hiding from yourself. So what I mean by doing less to be more is really taking your life values first before you create your business. So if you can live a life of going, right, well, I want to be there for this is for me, for example. I want to be there for my children, that if they are sick, I'm there for them. If, I just want lots of time with them. Like, I think it's weird that I send my children to school 5 days a week. Weird, right? It is, I actually send them to a Montessori school, which is super awesome. But even that, I'm like, I don't understand why we send our children away from us for a long time. So I want a life where I can have my children with me all the time if I want to, right? And so we literally have created that. So I've got a team. So I can often have really good time off so I can be with my kids.
Yeah, beautiful.
I want to have a life where my husband can do what lights him up, not just pay the bills, right? And still retain his masculinity of being able to provide for the family, but not in that traditional sense of having to go away from their family home every day from 7 o'clock to 5:30 at night.
Yeah.
You know, it's all of stripping away what doesn't feel good, filling it up with more time, more connection with my family, friends, and then building my business around that.
You're talking for people that have had their big dreams kicked out of them. You're talking airy fairy stuff as well for people that aren't on that level. Like that's pie in the sky. Like I can't achieve that. That's not realistic. Like how does someone go from that space of such like deep, dense sort of energy and belief systems around themselves to even beginning to contemplate that or to even entertain those sorts of possibilities? Because what are you talking about? Like if you don't have a job, you go out there, work hard. What are you talking about? You just pay taxes, you work hard. That's life's not fair. Like that's a lot of people, unfortunately. But how do you build that?
Totally. And I get that too, because what I get often is, oh, well, that's okay for you.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, no. Like I'm the girl who grew up with the poor family who, you know, always got told I can't afford this. You know, I am, you know, we're an Aussie battler family.
$5 in a backpackers bloody few years back.
Look at me go. I was eating sausages for a week. I bought a pack of sausages and bread.
And I'm vegetarian.
I don't eat them. You know, so it is definitely a mindset.
Yeah.
And when we think about the sum of who we are today, we are a conglomeration of other people's beliefs.
Okay, elaborate.
So if we think about ourselves from like as children, you know, from the age of 0 to 7, our belief systems are laid down in us from our parents, caregivers, school, etc. So our belief systems are set when we're really young. So then as an adult, what can usually happen is we turn into the person that we are today, and it's like, oh, you got to work hard, can't afford this, it's okay for you, blah, 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 Aussie. Oh, and, you know, see this action I'm doing, and I'm not making a judgment, but it's very robotic, right? Yeah. It's very much living in that third dimensional reality of I'm boxed in and I am who I am, and that's all that's going to happen. But every single one of us has the opportunity to actually break out of that. And breaking out of that, you've got to break your belief systems.
Yeah.
And, you know, do it however you can. You know, for me, I've tried every modality in the world. So I've done energy healing, Reiki, past life transitions, you know, NLP, timeline therapy, family constellation, you know, you name it, I've done it, right? Yeah. EFT, NLP, like, so I've done whatever I possibly can to really break out of those belief systems.
The full A to Z.
The A to Z.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't do the A to Z, I wouldn't have been able to get to the space where I am today, where I completely trust and believe and have flow and lots of time and space and energy. Yeah. So I think most people are starting to wake up though.
And with that as well, I think it's worth noting that it's okay. Like that is the process. Well, that's one journey as well. But you're not going to get to where Genine is just because today you're like, okay, I want that now, and then like that. Like no, it's testament to you did the hard work. You've done the hard decisions. You've made the hard calls. You've faced your fears, which is the hardest fucking thing. But you've actually put in the hard yards. You can sit there. You look beautiful in this white gown. You look like an angel, right? But you're a beast, right? And people need to recognize that as well.
Yeah, totally. And Matt, you know, that's, I think, what people don't see is the work is the belief work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the work is not this work or the slaving away or the time for money. That's not the work.
No.
And we're conditioned for such a long time that if you work hard, you're going to make it, you'll get through.
Yeah.
That's not where it is. Like the work's all in here and here.
Well, maybe it's just been misinterpreted because the hard work up in here will get you there, but just not the physical hard work as they say, like it's that combination, get that balance between the
Yeah,
masculine and the feminine together.
totally.
Swinging that pitchfork ain't just going to do it.
A little devil on one side, my little angel on the other. It's
Yeah.
that balance of everything.
Hmm.
And to bring it ground it again for people is that I believe we have a choice. We have a choice in everything.
Yeah. Mm.
And if you can realize that you have a choice about how you show up on a daily basis and what your life ends up being created, that actually is the start of it. That gives you empowerment to know that you've got a part to play in it.
Yeah, and this aligns so well, obviously, with the daily B being believe in yourself, express yourself authentically, and then evolve consciously as well. But with those beliefs, what came up for me was just there's these core foundational beliefs that either just get given to us randomly that we sort of stumble across ourselves, or just through our inquisitive nature, we ask too many questions and our bullshit meter goes off. And it's like, well, hang on, that doesn't really feel right. And it's things, yeah, like you said, believing that I am choosing this, or beliefs like I can change what I believe, or I can have a different outcome, or why is this the way it is? I believe it can be different. But these sort of foundational things that we stumble across, but and maybe you can attest to this as well, that people that aren't there, they haven't had the opportunity to hold on to that yet. It hasn't been introduced to them, or they just haven't inquired enough about that.
Yeah, and look, I think everyone can start where they're at.
Yeah.
Like I often see people wanting to go from where they are, say point A, over to point B, but wanting to jump there and not realizing that it's the journey along the way that actually is the beautiful bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even though sometimes, and I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but I'll swear anyway,
Fine.
even though sometimes like life can seem shithouse.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so from here to here, it can like seem like it's the worst ever and so forth. But if we really truly dive into that, every experience that's given to us has a gift at the end of it, even if we can't see it right now, that actually helps us have the faith and trust that we keep moving forward. And as a side note too, I will just say some shitty things just happen, right?
Yeah.
Some shitty things just completely happen. So, we're never about victim shaming here in any way, shape or form. But I think even being able to give people just that little glimmer of hope that they have a part to play in the getting out of that, that's where it is. I've seen, I've had clients who have had like the worst possible things happen to them, whether it's trauma, abuse, deaths, all sorts of hideous, horrible things.
Yeah.
Sometimes they end up being the strongest because they had so many uncoverings and learnings from down here that they've along the way integrated. And, I always say that the 3 steps to transformation are, number 1, awareness of why this actually happened to me. Mm-hmm. Number 2 is the acceptance of that and the non-judgment of self and others in it. And number 3 is then the transformation can happen. So those ones who've had the stories where most people would say, no, they're never going to make it, end up being the ones who really cut through.
Mm. Talk to me about the importance of the company you keep and the information that you digest and the environment that you create for yourself.
Oh, well, it's everything. If you read about epigenetics, you become a sum of your environment and a sum of the people that you surround yourself with. So, imagine being surrounded by multimillionaires who are, saving people around the world, building charities and so on every day. You have nowhere to go but to go up with them. Whereas the opposite is also true. If you surround yourself every day with people who are in a lower vibration and angry and resentful and negative, you can be sucked down. So I teach my clients very much about frequency and vibration. So we really look at, like, from an energetic level, if you're vibrating in a state of fear, You're actually vibrating down here at about 100 hertz.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And because of law of attraction, you can only attract more of what you're vibrating at.
Yep.
Like attracts like. So therefore, go change your state. And so we give our clients tools so that every day they can change their state. And it's minute by minute, second by second to change their state, to raise that vibrational frequency. And we say to our clients, we really want them to be vibrating at a state of love and above.
Love and above.
520, love and above. So if anyone's heard of Christy Marie Sheldon, she's through Mind Valley, does a lot of the work about showing people about how to get into the vibration of love and above, which is 528 degrees hertz, 25 to 528 hertz and above.
Yeah, beautiful.
So if you think about 1,000 hertz is enlightenment, then it's all the good stuff up there. You get more love, more money, more time, more freedom, more joy, more peace.
Absolutely. And that, I think that's really that second part of your transformational process, acceptance, is it's one thing to desire something and to be on this journey to attain that, but when you can accept everything that you've got in your present moment and really love and be grateful for everything that is here, like you said, like that, like attracts like, and you're just going to keep attracting more of what you're desiring, what you're enjoying, what you're loving as well.
Yeah. And I get, for some people, that's a leap. That's airy fairy. That's fluffy. That might be classed as woo-woo, as if. But for those who are really willing to do the work to get there, once you get there, then you're like, oh, I get it now.
For me, it was the process of like a little bit of personal development through multi-level marketing companies. That's what they do. And then I read a lot of books, but Think and Grow Rich was one of those personal development type books in the masculine, but still introduced me into a few concepts. And one of them was having an open mind on all subjects. And it's not until really you go, okay, I'm willing to have an open mind on even the most craziest stuff. I was talking to a guy when I got my haircut the other day about this guy that has a podcast about like conspiracy theories, and he was telling me all these random things that this guy was bringing up. Interesting, but have an open mind on all subjects. And once that mind is open, then it creates space for this information to come in. And you don't need to look far to recognize that a lot of this stuff is just common sense. It's just not common in the general scope of the population, but it's common, like frequency, energy frequency and vibrations from Tesla and Einstein recognizing that we're all connected 100 years ago is still not common knowledge, yet it's 100 years old. People are like, oh my God, like what is this? It baffles me when I come across this information. I'm like, what the hell is going on that I'm a 30-year-old man? I don't know this stuff. It's 100 years old. And this is the shit people are teaching at school. It's like, why is this so underground or so not common knowledge?
Yeah. Well,
because it's not woo-woo. It's not woo-woo. It is just common sense.
Science. Yeah, and it's science. And two things. One is I remember sitting in bed one night watching Gaia. Yeah. Gaia TV, like it's Netflix for nerds like me. And I was watching Missing Links with Greg Braden.
Yeah, beautiful.
I'm sitting there with my husband. And so I'm a scientist. Like I went to university for 4 years and learned all of this, right? Yeah. I was sitting in bed and I just went, oh my God, everything I learned at university has just been completely debunked. But I'm like, why are we not learning this? Like, why are we not learning about the universe? And so the second bit of that is, do we want to talk about conspiracy theories? We don't have, it's a whole other show.
Well, they're conspiracies, but all of them not real. Not all of them can't be real.
We won't go into like who's controlling us. Hence my robot action. But we're like, to get a little bit on the woo-woo side of things, we are moving into a whole new realm, a whole new time, a whole new eon, a whole new astrological cycle, etc. So know that, as crazy as this sounds, we're actually moving into a space of love. So even if you don't believe, you're going to move anyway. You can't do anything about it. Everything's going to get better.
How do you find knowing what you know through the experiences and the deep dives that you've taken? I'm sure you tie yourself to your desk before you deep dive in a few of these places so you can find your way back. But
Yeah.
just out of personal interest, like how do you find keeping that level of relatability and understandability with clients and just people in general in conversation when at the back of your mind
Yeah, well, do you know what? Like, it's getting a little crazy because I'm starting to get tattoos on me, and which is bizarre for me. Like, if anyone knew me from when I'm a child, teenager, even my 20s, like, I'm not. This is me just making up judgments here, but I'm not a typical tattoo person. But I'm starting to drop any form of self judgment and judgment of others, and care what people think of me. So
mm,
these tattoos are a mark of my really deep transformations. And it's even
yeah,
interesting, I'll just talk about them for a moment if I can, because
yeah,
it's relevant, is this one here, which says joie de vivre.
joie de
Doesn't
vivre,
actually matter what it says.
yeah,
It's joie de vivre, joy of life. The reason I got that one, I was in Paris, as I do, and I had a massive I had a massive personal transformation at this event, and just went off down the road to a tattoo parlor and, like, spur of the moment,
yeah,
got tattooed. It had to be Parisian. But then the tattoo that I just got in Bali, which is like a code, um, without going fully into what that means, but for me, it's a development of my stage of ascension. And so the question you asked was, how do I maintain that balance between people thinking I'm totally cuckoo to being a solid businesswoman? I'm just going to say it's that balance, masculine, feminine. So, part of what I do, part of who I am,
yeah,
part of my marketing, etc., is business.
yeah,
How to make more money, foundations of growing a business, very logical. Here's the strategy, etc. So I really market that. And then on the other side, I allow people time to get into that stuff first, and then draw them over here if they're ready and open. Because it's not for me to throw that on people, because it can be
yeah,
very scary when people just go, what the hell are you talking about?
yeah.
So that's the secondary part that people need to move into if they're willing and open.
If and when
If
I love making up new words in this show.
we do.
We're innovators. That's what we do. How long have you been doing this for, the business coaching?
About 6 years.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, give or take the years and years before that, where people used to do the whole, can I buy you a coffee?
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm just thinking about like my own development and journey as well, and it's so quick, it's so easy to look at people that are doing really great work and judge yourself in comparison to them when they've been doing it for a certain period of time. But yeah, that process of understanding or remember or recognizing your identity and how
Yeah.
connected you are to it, and how intertwined it is with your ego and with your belief systems, but then really learning to let go. And that's, I think, one of the probably the biggest or most common conversations I have with people is their fear of judgment and of others, or their identity of who they are right now, and not wanting to let go of that. But you touched on it earlier, like you're not going to create this different lifestyle for yourself with the mindset that got you there and the belief systems that got you there. But accepting those and loving those for the process that they've played, and then be willing to shift and completely, like, rip that skin off and emerge as something completely new. But that's scary. That is a scary process. Even I stopped drinking and smoking for a while, and even just doing that, going from the party boy to, okay, who the fuck am I now? Like, I'm not anyone if I'm not making people laugh and showing people a good time. but it's constant. So I don't know. I've got a question. Maybe, yeah, share like a little bit more of your experience of going from what you once were. And I know there's been multiple transformations for yourself. And this is what you're helping people with as well, every day. But for yourself, what you once were, and really allowing that transformation to happen into a completely new identity, or shedding thereof.
Yeah. And I would actually say it's that shedding,
Yeah.
shedding who we think we are to become the real us. And Lordy, it did not happen overnight in any way, shape, or form. For me, there was a couple of really key moments along the way. And when I still had Profile Magazine in its old format, which I didn't finish that story before, that I have it back now, synchronicity, strange. I actually started a second business with a girlfriend of mine, and we started blogging just on random topics. And we started like sharing our stuff, like our issues, so that other women could start feeling okay with their own issues. And it was so popular that we actually ended up putting it into a book. And so we made a book, and it's called Issues, What Issues?
Yeah.
Because we found that most people don't actually talk about their issues. They don't talk about what was holding them back. So it was kind of like the first catalyst. And we used to do a lot of speaking tours and go and share, everything that was deemed ugly about ourselves, just put it out on the table. Cool. And it helped other people to go, oh my God, I feel that way too. And, have a commonality on things that were below the surface.
Yep.
So it was one of the key things that me starting to go out in public and talk about, my fears, failures, all of that.
Yes.
Then I believe that the second part was when I decided to become a coach. Whoa, if you want to become a coach, and I was like a business coach, far out, like your stuff just gets put up in a mirror in front of you from your clients. And so I had to really go into a massive deep dive personal development journey to show up as a more powerful coach constantly. So I've never been without coaching since, probably 8 years ago now, but especially to 6 years ago with really deep dive coaching, so that I can, constantly move through the stuff that comes up, judgment from others, whether it's money stuff. I have had a big money journey. Like that's been probably one of my really things to trudge through, to now being able to make money like instant manifestation, like it flows so easily.
Cool.
And so many of those like uncoverings, it was really such a long process to then get to today. But then, of course, and again, just referring to my tattoo, it's a triangle with an open in it, because I'm open to transformation. I'm open to more change.
Yeah, cool.
Because I believe we're a different person tomorrow than we are today, and a different person in the next minute. We grow constantly, and as a human being, it's one of our core needs to constantly grow. So I don't know if that answers that for you.
No, I think it hit the mark. I get lost in my own questions. Sometimes I think, how the fuck are they going to answer that? That's like a 13-minute long question trying to get to the point. So it's fun, though.
I love it. We could be on here for hours, couldn't we?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I remember the first time I tried to do a webinar. I'm like, okay, I'm going to put this webinar together. I'm going to do this live webinar, and it's going to be like maybe 30 minutes to an hour. And I'm like, I went for 3 hours. I'm like, I just scratched the surface. I could be here for the next 3 weeks. I'm gonna learn some time control and learn short, impactful statements. There's a lot to learn, but it's great.
Totally. And look, I guess that brings it back to, for me, my philosophy is do less to be more.
Yeah.
Is that, I am so... Matt's been trying to get an appointment with me for like forever, and I'm like, no, I don't work weekends. I don't work after 2. I don't work before 9. I don't do this, and I have every 4th week off, so I can't do it then. Trying to get an appointment with me, and we've finally got it. It's perfect. And I guess I'm so boundary oriented with still some flexibility.
Yeah.
But what that means is by having my values really clear about when I work, when I don't work, means that I get to be more present.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for this interview today, there's nothing else in the world, nothing else except for you and me right here and all the people watching.
Yeah, 100%. And for me, I love that because it sets a standard and it sets an example for me as well to follow of someone that I do see doing work that I admire and see a little bit further down the path of what I'm aspiring to do as well. And so it's great to be part of that. And I remember I got fired from from a business and a job one time, and I loved that they did that because they spruiked these principles, and I've still got like a laminate of the principles that the business worked by, and that's how they run their business. They referred every decision back to that set of principles, and it was just the most beautifully put together business. I'll call it, it's Tom James. It was a beautiful suit company, amazing suit company, and out of Texas they make the world one of if not the world's most beautiful suits. But I got absolutely fucking destroyed one Australia Day, and I left the nightclub like 15 minutes before I needed to be at work. Rocked up, I was messed up, right? But rightly so. Like they fired me because I smelt like a drunk, and I turned up in that state. But it was such a great example for me of living to principles, not getting away with shit, and basing your decisions on your boundaries. And I think that's fantastic, and I love bearing witness to that as well because it paints that picture. And like you said, if I'm hanging out with millionaires and billionaires and in that space, well, naturally that's what I'm going to be drawn towards doing as well.
Totally. It's for that reason that this Friday I'll be flying out to Palm Springs in the States, and I'm going for a 3-day event that's like an all-day event with 1,000 other entrepreneurs from all around the world with one of my coaches, and she's, a multi-millionaire coach, and, she's got clear family values, and I actually model her schedule. So, for example, she taught me how to do, I work 3 weeks on, 1 week off. And in that off week is for me to like work on my business if I want. So if I've got a project that I want to get sorted, or if I want to go to Palm Springs and do an entrepreneurial event, or if I actually need rest and rejuvenation. So sometimes like I'll go to Bali and just do nothing for a week and hang out with the family or with a girlfriend is my last one, so that I can come back and be like all fired up. And by modeling that, what I've actually found is that I have more energy in my business when I'm doing business because I don't feel stretched.
Okay.
And so, people often say to me, wow, you got so much energy. And it's like, well, yes, because I'm not feeling pulled. I don't do busy. I don't do juggle. I'm just very conscious of where my energy and focus is. And I guess that's a great, thing for anyone, that if you're finding that you're feeling pulled everywhere, well, you've got the choice to change that.
And you're a mum. Like, that's the biggest excuse
I'm a mum.
Is parents like, oh, but you don't have kids, Matt. Well, fucking go look at someone that has kids like Genine Howard, who's dominating, and learn from her. Like that's just, oh man, it's great having excuses, but it's even greater learning to let them go as well. And so can you share then briefly, like that's your monthly schedule, 3 weeks on, 1 week to yourself, or wherever you want to spend that time. What does a typical day and a typical week look like for yourself in that sense?
Yeah,
doing
perfect.
less and being more.
So I don't work Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays. So don't ever. And I work Monday is my day. So I love Mondays. So it's so open and expansive. Like I go, ooh, what am I doing today? And it's my day to dream, to vision, to create things. So I'm pointing at my board here, but I've just been visioning and creating travel experiences next year for all of my clients. So we've got down, there'll be another Bali retreat for my other clients. We're going to Mexico in March. We've got Byron Bay. We're looking at either both or one of Amalfi Coast and Egypt. I might just do one. I'm just not sure,
Well, look, if you want me to facilitate one and you do the other, then just let me know. I'm happy to.
We could do like blokes and girls.
Yeah.
We've been sidebar.
I'm
So
glad. It makes me stoked to know that then, because you part of that creative day is joining me on the Daily B on a Monday. So I appreciate
and
that, taking the time.
and so like it's my day to feel free that I can actually get these kind of things in. So then Tuesdays and Thursdays I do client service. So those days my energy is only focused in serving my clients. And then Wednesday is another open day. So I'll work on the business, I'll do a project. If we need to do some magazine stuff, that's when I'll do it.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, I love it. And for someone that's just starting to get a bit of a roll on with that, how much time, like, I was just going to go into sort of social media and connecting on those bases, because when you're connecting with so many people, what's your strategy to maintain frequency of interaction with those people? And I'd imagine you've got a team, which is fantastic, but maybe looking back to when you were starting out, how you sort of manage that for yourself?
Yeah. I'll just show you something that I keep it really simple.
Yeah.
So my motto in business, which you know because you've been to my event, is like keep it really simple.
Yep.
So daily tasks, this is what I do each day, and that's it.
Sick. That's awesome.
So for example, like we can forget about things we have to do. So for me, it's check in with the team, check in with my clients. So to be a quick check in to my academy group, my mastermind group, and my free group. Just check in, do a quick little hello, which takes sometimes like 3 seconds, and a quick little marketing. So usually it's do a Facebook Live or give content to the team so we can send it out on our weekly newsletter. And then I do my own personal development. So it's checking into my own Facebook group that I'm part of, and maybe checking with my coach. And that's kind of it. So
okay,
again, it's the power of what you do, not how much you do.
Yeah.
So it's being impactful with everything that you do. Do. And I will say, I call myself the lazy marketer. I hardly do any marketing. People say, I see you marketing all the time. I'm like, I hardly do any, but I think it's because when I do it, it's very conscious.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Elaborate.
I do it from inspiration. I don't do it from a should. I do it from tuning in about what it is that people really need to hear at the moment.
Yeah.
So it's not really about an agenda, right? It's always from a place of service.
Yeah. So one thing I've noticed is if I recognize a conversation's coming up twice or 3 or 4 times within a few people, that's my call to jump on and share something and to address that. Is that sort of what you mean by being inspired? Yeah.
Perfect. Exactly what I mean. Whereas sometimes I think we can be too planned in like, okay, this week I'm going to do the marketing for, the next enrollment. This week I can do this. There is a place for that strategy, but there also needs to be a space just for flow. And that's where, you do social media and you do your newsletters from a space of what feels good.
Yeah.
And then it feels exciting and expansive.
Yeah, not obligation. You feel trapped and okay.
Yeah.
Share with us your upcoming event that people can, if they're on the Sunshine Coast or want to get to the Sunshine Coast for a little bit of a warm getaway, that they can come to and connect with yourself.
Perfect. So we do a monthly workshop here on the Sunshine Coast at Pier 33 in Mooloolaba. And so the next one's on the 9th of October. And it's a half-day workshop where, I really dive into these kind of principles. And I do say just allow me to go where I need to go on that day. Who knows what happens?
It's not creepy at all.
Not creepy at all. People come to my events and they're like, oh, so you're going to go through these points? And I go, I don't know.
We'll see. I asked you for your running sheet and you're like, well, I don't really have one. I've sort of do these little bits, but maybe speak to them. They probably know better than me. That's so good.
No rules.
Yeah.
Hashtag no rules.
Yeah.
So that's our next workshop. And I will also say too that we're opening up a public Bali retreat. We've had quite an expression of interest for that. So we'll be doing one in January.
Cool. I will grab these links from you as well, and I'll put them in the description of these the episodes, and I'll update them as I get them. And just to connect with you generally speaking, with regards to your coaching and your service as well, JanineHoward.com, I believe. Is that right? Yep.
JanineHoward.com, or Facebook message me is probably the quickest. So my Facebook is Genine Howard.
Yeah.
I also have Profile Magazine, but that's for more the magazine side of things.
Yes. Cool. Awesome. Any last words or something that you'd really you're inspired to pass on and share and leave our viewers with?
My story is one that I really want people to know can be their story or their version of it, and that you can come from the toughest of backgrounds, or an environment that doesn't seem particularly conducive, but you can, by conscious choice and decisions and inspired action, literally live out a life that you could have only dreamed of. And if you can dream it, you can go and do it. That's it.
I love it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on, Matt.
Anytime. I'm looking forward to the second edition, and you got a neck tattoo hanging around here. I do what I want. Awesome, guys. Thanks for joining us as well. And yeah, look forward to a bunch of amazing guests coming up. Genine, again, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to see what the future holds for us both.
Sounds good. Thanks, Matt.
See you guys.